If you are still working on your taxes, you're running out of time. But be careful. Local 6 investigator Mike Holfeld uncovered a tax scheme that starts with a phone call. If someone calls you claiming to be an IRS officer, hang up.
Because first of all, it's tax time, and he's telling me he's a deputy from the IRS.
This is Officer Paul Johnson calling you from the IRS and direct hotline to my division. It's 315-517-3075.
And you hesitated for a moment, didn't you?
I did, because I do my taxes, and I was like, well, wait a minute, did I do them right?
Local 6 viewer Kathy Bidwell admits the message on her cell phone was unnerving.
Now, if I don't hear from you or your attorney either, the only thing I can do is wish you a good luck.
There are people that are going to sit there and say, did I do them wrong? What's going on? And that's not right.
That's why she brought us the cell phone voice message. But there's something else. Kathy says the voice and that message seemed familiar.
My name is Officer Jason Miller. My name is Officer Jeremy Fox.
My name is Brad. Don't disregard this message.
She's right. It's the same scripted message Local 6 viewers have been reporting to us for weeks.
Don't disregard this message and do return the call.
The only difference? This time the imposter claims to be with the IRS.
This is Officer Paul Johnson calling you from the IRS.
The IRS tells Local 6 imposters will use common names like Johnson. They may use fake IRS badge numbers, and they may be able to recite the last 4 digits of a victim's social security number.
And that's the scariest part. Your social security numbers are out there, so just beware. That does not mean anything. Mike says the IRS will never call you on the phone and demand payment or threaten you, so make sure that you don't give them any information. And if you have questions, call the IRS. All right, let's talk about taxes, because if you haven't filed already, you are running out of time. I have here with me today Nancy Hecht. She's a certified financial planner with Certified Financial Group. Nancy, I did find some great tips, questions to ask your preparer. I found these from Forbes, but I just wanted to go through them real quick with you to get your feeling on it. First of all, ask your financial preparer, do you have a PTIN number, which is a preparer tax identification number? I mean, if you don't have the right credentials, so to speak, you should be nowhere near anybody's information, right?
Exactly. I mean, you're going to end up like this woman who, was afraid and started giving her information out potentially to somebody on the phone. Yes, they have to go through certification, they have to go through licensing, they have to go through continuing education. You want to have somebody who is qualified and is going to sign their name to your return and have the proper identification and education, do your taxes.
So the PTIN number, is it revoked? Do they take it away if you do something wrong? Is there any way to check that it's actually valid,
I would imagine on irs.gov there's a lot of information that you can find, and I would imagine putting in that acronym and finding out information on the number and the validity of the number, there would be a lot of information there.
All right, what is your tax background? Because you are a certified financial planner.
Correct.
You don't necessarily specialize in taxes, so it's important to know what the letters mean.
Right.
CPA, Certified Public Accountant. That is the person who actually knows how to file your return. But you also want to ask, what kind of return have you filed before? There's also the VITA, a Volunteer Income Tax Assistant.
Right.
Now, if you go into one of these places that files a lot of returns, you might find a VITA or someone filing, but there should be someone overseeing them.
There should be. The volunteers, I think you find a lot at senior centers and at places like the villages where they have a lot of seniors and people are volunteering to do people's taxes. But whether it's a volunteer, whether you're walking into one of the tax prep places, the first thing that you want to do is ask somebody for their credentials and ask somebody a little bit about their education.
And by the way, the VITA, that volunteer, still has training, so that person should be trained.
Yes.
Have you prepared a tax return before, the one that I need? All tax returns are not the same. A 1040-EZ, first of all, I don't know why you're asking a preparer to do that for you, but there are people that still want help. Schedules. Do you know how to do schedules for business, for rentals? That's supposed to be rental, by the way. Sorry, my typo. Are you an international taxpayer? Do you own a small business? You want to make sure that your CPA is experienced in the type of return you need.
Right, and if you're going through that litany of, in the past, I've had to file these types of forms and the eyes are glassing over, or they sort of have a what kind of look, then I would politely end that interview and try and find somebody else who's more qualified and a lot more confident in their presence.
Okay, what records will you need from me? Now, you would think this would be obvious.
Right.
But it isn't, because some people actually charge by the hour. I found this out.
Yeah.
And if you don't have your records together, every time they make a phone call, every time they ask you for more records,
Or send an email
or send an email,
your
they're
planner.
charging you
Yeah.
for it. So you want to ask up front, what records do you need from me?
Right, and following that, how do you charge and how do you get paid?
Yeah, that's the next question on the list. How are you going to determine your fees? Is it by the hour? Is it by the complexity of your return? And you always want to avoid preparers who are going to base their fee on a percentage of your anticipated return. I could see that be very profitable if I know I'm going to be getting a large return.
Right, right. And I mean, some people do, their tax planning is to get large refunds. It's forced savings for a lot of people.
Exactly.
I mean, there's many of us
It's forced
that
savings for me.
sadly have to write large checks, you know, come Tuesday. But yes, it should be somebody who charges a flat fee based on the complexity of the return is my preference.
Right.
It may not be everybody's preference, but it's my preference.
Okay, what happens if I get audited? I've always wondered this question. What does happen if you get audited?
Well,
the questions are, first of all, will you respond to IRS questions if they are asked? And will you pay to fix the mistakes, or will that cost me if the mistakes on the tax return have to be fixed?
Whoever's signing your return, if it is somebody who is a qualified, educated, licensed preparer, should be signing the return and should be attending any audit, should you get audited, with you. They're on the line just like you are.
Okay. Questions. Let's get to what we need to prepare.
Okay.
Some of the questions I have, and let's just get to that, what you referred to a little while ago. I get a very large check, right? Because I do like the forced savings, but I
Okay.
also, at the end of the year, I think to myself, maybe I should have been putting more of that money toward investments. Is it
Right.
really such a good idea? So this is also a time where people should be preparing for the following year, right? What can we be doing with our money right now? What are some things that we should be thinking about to prepare for the following year after tax season is over?
Well, the easiest thing to do is to take advantage of your payroll deducted retirement savings, whether it's a 401k, a 403b, a TSA. You're saving pre-tax whole dollars, which is going to reduce the amount of tax that you have to pay, and put that extra money that you're forcing yourself to save pre-tax in your own pocket right off the bat versus getting it back.
Okay, so that's something to try to do.
Pre-tax, yes.
Pre-tax. And also, kind of, how do you calculate the number of exemptions and whether you're taking enough exemptions? And how do you, with your clients, how do you determine that at the beginning of a year?
Well, I mean, you can look at, again, if you're getting a large refund, maybe you need to play with the exemptions and change that a little bit. I mean, a large refund is you're really lending the money to the federal government all year long.
So you don't recommend it?
No, I would rather have use of it or decide, and another way to reduce your taxes is if I want to donate that money to a qualified charity versus letting the government use it all year long. I would rather put it to use for any other charity than versus paying more in federal taxes.
Right. Other things that you should be planning for, retirement plans, you did talk about that,
Right,
things that
right.
can be organized because you can, before a certain date, you can actually get ready with retirement plans and put money into those retirement plans.
Yes, I mean, most of us are familiar with everything that's payroll deducted. There's a lot of self-employed people out there, and for those of us that are self-employed, a self-employed pension allows you to put aside 25% of your adjusted gross income up to $52,000 under current tax law. So that could be a huge deposit into your pocket and a reduction from what you're going to be paying in your federal taxes.
Okay. A couple more questions for Nancy Hecht, a certified
Financial planner.
certified financial planner. I'm getting the CPA and the CFG or CFP mixed up. We'll be right back here on Flashpoint. Stay with us. CFA. Welcome back. Okay, so if you're not quite ready, we were talking about retirement plans and what you need to do before you file. Let's talk about extensions. What can be done? What kinds of extensions can be filed, and what should people be thinking about?
Well, you can get an extension up to 6 months, so that would take you through to October 15th of this year. There's a form. The form is 4868 that you have to file. If you go again on irs.gov and put in extension in the search box, you can get it. The extension form has got to be filed by the 15th.
Okay.
And it allows you time to get your documents in place, to get money together to make your retirement account contributions. If you owe money, you have to send it in with your extension. So that's one caveat. I mean, a lot of people want to extend because they maybe don't have the money, they got caught by surprise owing versus getting a refund or owing more. So you are supposed to pay what you owe with the extension, but you could get up to an extra 6 months.
Okay.
So.
Nancy Heck, thank you so much for all of the information, and we'll have you back to talk about finances.
Okay.
Everybody always needs the advice.
Thank you.
All right, that's it for us. We're out of time. Have a great week. Tell your friends about Flashpoint.